DJ Payne 1.
Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the CEO Sports Show for September 20th, 2025. On today's episode, I will be recapping week 4 of the college football season. So before we get into the episode, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, while you're at it, please make sure to go check out the other shows on the Kretschman Media Network. It is on the homepage. Please make sure to go check them out. I would greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Let's get into these games. So I want to start off by talking about the game that just happened, and that was Miami versus Florida. I think here's the thing, right? Florida was compromised in this game because they were missing the defensive lineman, but I don't think that's a good excuse because Florida was going to lose this game regardless. Florida has been very underwhelming this year. DJ Lagway as a whole has been extremely underwhelming. That's somebody that we're going to have to talk about for this game. But the reason why Miami won this football game was because they were just clearly better on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, yeah, the offense was inconsistent for them, but defensively, they completely and utterly dominated the Florida Gators in this game. I mean, 7 points put on the board by the Florida Gators, right? And they ended up, okay, this is how bad it was for Florida. They ended up with 80 yards on the ground. 80. They averaged 2.8 yards per attempt. And even though they only had 80 yards on the ground, they had more rushing yards than they had passing yards. DJ Lagway in today's game accounted for, in total, 53 total yards because he had the rushing. He was 8 carries for -8 yards, and he had 61 yards over the air. So he accounted for 53 total yards in this game. I get it. The Miami Hurricanes have an outstanding defense. But if you are the guy that people were saying that you were coming into the season, you have to play better than this. He was flat out unimpressive. Not only was he unimpressive, he was unimpressive last week. That's something we're going to talk about in this, when we start talking about Florida. But the story of the game was Florida's defensive line dominated for a majority of the game, and they played at their best when it mattered the most. When they needed to get a stop at the end of the game to close out the game, guess what they did? They got a stop, and it was relatively easy for them. It wasn't very hard for them. Their pass rush is elite, and they showed why they're elite tonight. I think Carson Beck could play a little better. I didn't love what I saw from him tonight. Threw that one bad interception. Really had a hard time getting into rhythm this game. And especially, look, I will say this. Florida, their defense is not easy to play against. I mean, even last week, we saw with LSU, who we look at as one of the best offenses in the country, Florida had some success on defense against LSU. And not only that, Florida gave LSU 5 turnovers in that game. And they still struggled moving the ball on this Florida defense. It's a very good defense. It's a tough defense. It's going to be tough for any team they play against. That is the identity of their team. As long as they don't give up on the season, defensively, they're going to cause a lot of teams a lot of issues, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, their next game is against Texas, and they're going to give them some issues offensively. We'll talk about Texas, of course. But, when you look at this game, when you look at the team stats as a whole, 21 first downs for for Miami compared to 7 for Florida. Third down efficiency. Miami was 8 for 16. They were 50% on third down. Florida, 0 for 13. That's the story of the game right there. On third down, they could not get the job done at all. Not one time did they pick up a third down. 0 for 13. That's just terrible. 3 for 6 on fourth down. So, yeah, they're not picking it up on third down, but they would go to fourth downs, and at least they picked up some of them. But even still, you're talking about gotta have it downs, third and fourth downs. They were 3 for 19 in those downs. It's bad. That's really bad. Time of possession. Miami dominated time of possession. They were getting Florida off the field very easily. Rushing, 46 attempts for Miami, 4 yards per carry. It's bad. Now, one thing I will say is DJ Lagway did cut down on the turnovers. And that is something that, hey, there's a positive there, but overall, not very impressive from Florida. I did see, Caden, I did see Florida's quarterback play last week, DJ Lagway. Not very good. But here's the thing, because I do want to get into Miami here. We are in week 4 of the college football season. And I believe that when you look at all of the teams in the country, to me, I think that Miami is the best team in the country. Now, am I beating my chest saying that? No, I just think that when you look at their roster, both offensively and defensively, offensively against Florida, they didn't click. They didn't get into a good rhythm. But I think that going forward, if they can find that rhythm offensively, and I think that they have the potential to do that, you're talking about an offense that can be balanced both in the passing attack and in the run game. I think that they're a dominant rushing attack. But if they can get that passing attack clicking with Carson Beck, Malachi Toney, and CJ Daniels, that could be something to really look out for. But what really sells me on Miami and why I think they're the best team in the country is because both their offensive and defensive lines are very good. And I think that their defensive line is just flat out elite. And here's the reason why their defensive line is elite. There's 3 things to a defensive line. If you could stop the run, you're a good defensive line. If you can rush the pass, if you could stop the run and rush the passer, you're a great defensive line. If you could stop the run, rush the passer, and get home with 4 guys, you are an elite defensive line. Miami can stop the run, they can rush the passer, and they can get home with 4 guys. And that, to me, is really what sells me on this football team. Their defensive line's elite. When they needed to make plays, they made plays. And they really had a chokehold on that Florida offense in the entire night. But that, to me, is the selling point for Florida. They're going to win games because their defensive line is utterly elite. It's, to me, the best in the country. I think they're graded top 5 in both run stopping and pass rushing. So their defense is good enough to hold teams to, I think, 20 or less a game. Can their offense score 20 or more a game? I think they can. I think if this offense starts clicking a little bit more with their passing attack, that is the only thing that concerns me about Miami. If they can't get on the same page with their passing attack, then that to me is something where I say, okay, that's a little bit of a red flag. But I do like Carson Beck. I think that he's a good quarterback. He played in the SEC with Georgia last year. Okay. I love Malachi Toney. He's my, outside of Jeremiah Smith, my favorite receiver in the country. And not only that, what I love about Malachi Toney is that, I mean, true freshman, and this guy loves football. You could tell. He wants to get in there and block people. And I respect that. Undersized wide receiver who actually wants to get involved in the run game when it comes to blocking. I'm a big fan of his. I love what he does with the ball in his hands. He is electric with the ball in his hands. He's one of the most electric players in the country when he has the ball in his hands as a true freshman. And CJ Daniels, very reliable receiver. I love what this Miami team has. I like the quarterback. I think Carson Beck is a good quarterback. Against Florida, it was a rough game for him. And that's the thing you deal with Carson Beck. A little bit inconsistent there. But I think that the way Miami combats Carson Beck's inconsistency is, hey, we're going to rely on our run game here. We have a very, very good run game. We have two running backs that can tote the rock. We have an offensive line that can win at the point of attack and really push teams and move guys. And okay, so we're running the ball effectively. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make things easier for you with play action. We're going to get the ball in Malachi Toney's hands. They have a lot of answers on this team that makes me say, okay, the way you're going to combat Carson Beck's inconsistency is to press the easy buttons on this team, which is, again, running the football, building play action off it, and getting the ball in Malachi Toney's hands. And when you have a defense that's as elite as Miami's defense, it makes the game way easier for the quarterback. Because if you're telling the quarterback, hey, we need you to only put up 20 points and we stand a really good chance, I think that your defense can play under those standards. And I personally think that Miami has the best defensive player in the country, Ruben Bain Jr. Ruben Bain Jr. is an absolute freak show. Absolute freak show. This guy, if we're grading players for the 2025 NFL or 2026 NFL draft, he's the number one player in this class. He's the best player that I've seen in the country so far this year. I mean, you talk about a guy that, I mean, he gets double teamed in the run game and holds up on double teams. You can't run at the guy. He's physical at the point of attack. He's powerful when he needs to be powerful. He can rush with speed when he needs to rush with speed. He has pass rush moves. This guy, to me, is the best player in the country. Outside of Jeremiah Smith, the best player in the country. And you want to know what? I would say this. Is he better than Caleb Downs? I don't know. He might be. He might be a better defensive player than Caleb Downs. That's how high I am on Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain is incredible. He is the anchor of this Miami defense. And he's a guy that I look at and say, hey, this defense is elite, and he's a big reason why this defense is elite. I'm very impressed with how Miami plays defensively. And not only that, again, it's about getting stops when you need to get stops. And that's what I really liked about Miami in this game. It wasn't a pretty game. Not every game's going to be pretty. Hey, Florida looks like a team that they may be able to make the game ugly no matter who they play, right? We saw that against LSU. Florida turned the ball over 5 times against LSU. And you want to know what LSU did offensively? I think they put up 20 points last week offensively. Was that because Florida's defense is actually really good? And mind you, Florida was missing some of their best defensive linemen in this game. So, when we look at that and say, and we compare what LSU did and what Miami did, I'm going to look at that and say, okay, the game's probably not as pretty for Miami if they have those defensive linemen in there, but I still think they win this game. So to me, overall, when it comes to Miami, if they can just figure out their passing attack, and they have a veteran quarterback. They have weapons on the outside. If they can figure that out, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. So, got some comments here. You have good points about Miami. What about OSU? Their defense could be a bit better, but they look pretty dominant in the middle of the field. And if I'm correct, the back end hasn't let up a touchdown yet. And what about Miami's defense? I am honestly not convinced until they play a high-powered offense or a decent one. Caleb Downs hasn't given up a down since he's been in college. It's a crazy stat, but yes, Miami looks good. Look, you don't have to threaten me with a good time when it comes to Ohio State. I'm a diehard Ohio State fan. So my thing with Ohio State is I want to get a little more data on them, right? Like, so far with Ohio State, they played Texas week 1, and I'm not 100% sold on Texas. I wasn't sold on Texas going into that game, which is why I picked Ohio State to win that game. I need to see it from Ohio State first. I want to see what they do once they get into their Big Ten schedule. Not completely ruling out that they could potentially be the best team in the country. As a matter of fact, I would love if they were the best team in the country. But I just want to see a little bit more from Ohio State before I come to that conclusion. I think that ultimately Ohio State does stand a really good chance to potentially repeat, just because there's no great team in college football this year. There's really not. Like, if you're going to pick a year to kind of like, reshuffle some things with your program to build like the next great team in your program, this is a great year to do it, which is why like Ohio State might be able to just back into another national championship because of just the outlook of the country. There's not a great team. There's a lot of depth, right? Like, there's a lot of depth with really good teams this year, but I don't think there's a single great team in the country. I think the next game we'll see about Miami's defense against Florida State. Absolutely, that's going to be a big game. I want to talk about Florida, though. Man, they're going to have to make Florida's going to have to make a decision about Billy Napier here. Is this something that they move on from him in the middle of the season? I don't see this turning around for Florida. I mean, when you look at their schedule, they play Texas. I'm not going to lie. They might be able to win that game just because I'm just not high on Texas at all. But you have Texas A&M. I don't believe you're winning that game. Mississippi State, you can win that game. Georgia, you're not winning that game. Kentucky, that's going to be a toss-up. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. Like, I see potentially, like, when we look at games that I would favor the opponents, I would favor the opponent in the Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. So Florida has the potential to. They're 1-3 right now. I think they're going to lose 9 games this year. That's how difficult their schedule is and how underwhelming their team as a whole has been. And when you look at this program, they're not going in the direction that they want to go in, which is like last year, you started to see them move into the right direction here, which is why they brought Billy Napier back. But this year has been a complete and utter step back. Now, if Florida was 2-2 in these first 4 games, then I think that's a little bit different. South Florida, I get it. They're a tough program. They're a nice program that they have down there in South Florida. I get it. But you can't lose that game. If you're 2-2 going into this Texas game, then that's a different story. But you're not. You're 1-3, which is why I say Billy Napier, it's looking very likely that he's going to be out. And honestly, I mean, who are you going to hire for Florida, right? You're going to be able to find a coach. No doubt about it. One of the biggest brands in the sport. You play in the SEC. There's no doubt about it. You're going to be able to find a coach. To me, I think they got to do something bold here because this program is lifeless. If I were them, I would see if John Gruden would be interested in coaching the program. I think, look, there's nobody, out there that I think would be more qualified than John Gruden to be a head coach right now in the college ranks. I mean, this guy is somebody who won a Super Bowl, right? He was an NFL coach very bright offensive mind. And I think that when you look at the modern approach to college football, I think that John Gruden would be a perfect fit for college football because of how much social media is influencing a lot of these recruits, and how you see these social media, coaches on social media and doing a lot of recruiting that way. I think that that could be a really good bargaining chip for Florida, having a guy like John Gruden come in who's going to bring energy, who's going to bring life, who's going to bring excitement into your program, that's just lacking right now at Florida. And if that means DJ Lagway transfers to another school, then he transfers. What has he shown you this year that makes you say we cannot lose this young man? Because I haven't seen anything. I get it. He went 6-0 last year, but what I see from DJ Lagway this year, I mean, he's been terrible these last 2 games. He's not been good all season. And this is a guy that people were expecting was going to take that leap and potentially be a Heisman candidate. Not just a Heisman candidate, but a guy that could potentially be a top overall pick in the 2027 draft. He doesn't look anywhere remotely close to that. He is very far behind in his development. He's very far behind on where he needs to be as a quarterback. And if you're Florida as a program, you got to say to yourself, like, look, last year when people were talking about Ohio State moving on from Ryan Day, that was always ridiculous just because Ryan Day did a really good job of building that program, attracting really high-level recruits, being very good in the transfer portal. You don't want to lose that. You just don't want to do that. With Florida, what is there to lose? Like, what is there to lose if you're Florida? This is a program that is not heading in the right direction. They haven't really been anything to write home about in a very long time. Go get a guy like John Gruden, bring some life into your program, bring some excitement to your football team, because right now there is no excitement for your football team. They're going to lose another 5 or 6 games this year. They have one of the toughest schedules in the country. And not only do they have one of the toughest schedules in the country, but they didn't even make all of their layups. They never should have lost to South Florida. And them losing to that team is a big factor as to why I think they need to just move on from Billy Napier. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to move on from him. If it's not this year, it's going to be the year after that. I think that they're going to move on from Billy Napier. The question isn't if they're going to move on from Billy Napier. It's when are they going to move on from Billy Napier? Because I understand why they didn't want to move on from Billy Napier last year, because there was real momentum coming to their program. But you have to ask yourself, okay, yes, there was real momentum coming into the program last year. Do you see the same pathway this year with the schedule that they have? Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. Like, I mean, let's just say, okay, let's be optimistic about the schedule going forward. Let's just say they do beat Texas. I'm not saying they're going to, but let's just say they do. Texas A&M, I don't think they're beating them. Mississippi State, okay, there's another one. Georgia, no, it's not happening. Kentucky, let's just say they win that game, right? So they're at 4 wins there. Let's just say, hey, for the heck of it, let's give them Ole Miss. Again, I'm not predicting them to win all these games, but let's just be hypothetical here. 4. Tennessee, I don't think they're beating Tennessee. Let's just say, hypothetically, they beat Florida State. I dragged it as far as I could. As far as I could. And I got 5 wins. So they would end up as a 6-win team. And I drugged that as far as I could. And I could barely come up with 5 wins. They're in big trouble. Pretty fair because Manning looks awful and the play calling isn't doing him justice at all. Very true. There's not a step-up monster like Georgia a few years ago. I was very intrigued about Florida's defense, though. Looks good to be a championship contender, one but bad offense. The NIL, I feel like it is going to hurt college football, and the OK teams will get worse because all the good players are leaving for money. Understandable, though. Yeah, look, hey, Florida's defense is legit. They are a legit defense. That defense, I will say this. Maybe I should take that back when I talk about, like, what is it that you want to keep with this team? Like, what are you afraid of losing? I can understand why somebody would say that they're afraid of losing that defense, because that defense is legit. They are a very good defense. I want to move on to another program, and I'm going to rant a bit here because, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this when I say I'm about to rant, and that is Clemson. Clemson, what in the world is going on this season? What in the hell is going on? This is a team that I picked to win the national championship. So any Clemson fan in here that wants to label me as a hater, I am the furthest thing from a Clemson hater. As a matter of fact, I like Dabo Swinney. I wanted Dabo Swinney to prove all the critics wrong and to look at everybody in the face and say, no, you can still build a championship team by going through the recruiting and building your program out the way teams used to build out their program and using the transfer portal sparingly. But I don't, and you want to know what? I still think you can do that, because I do believe that this roster is a roster that could legitimately compete for a national championship. They are a poorly coached football team. And if you're Clemson, I get it. You're not going to move on from Dabo Swinney. I understand why you're not going to move on from Dabo Swinney, but I don't agree with it. Look, at the end of the day, Clemson, they've been a good program since they last won their national championship. The question that I would ask the administration from Clemson is, are you okay with being a good program? Or do you want to return back to dominance? And if you want to return back to dominance, you cannot sell me on the idea that Dabo Swinney is the guy to lead them back into dominance. Because this team, this roster that Clemson has, it's enough. They're good enough. I mean, they're returning 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. I believe in Cade Klubnik. I think he's a good quarterback. You have all the receivers you need. You have all the defensive pieces you need. So the fact that this team took such a step back is alarming, and it raises a lot of questions about what Clemson needs to do going forward to make their program the dominant program that they once were. And I just don't believe that Dabo Swinney is the guy to lead them back into the spotlight. I mean, 1-3 this year. It's egregious. Like, I understood that you lost to LSU, even though I picked Clemson to win that game. I understand why you lost to LSU, because LSU is one of the best teams in the country. But when you look at their team ever since then, I mean, it wasn't even close today. I mean, Syracuse dominated them. It was a really bad performance from Clemson. Not only that, they lost to Georgia Tech. Not a good loss. Even though Georgia Tech is a good team, like, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to disrespect Georgia Tech at all when I say that. But there's no way that you're looking at the talent on Georgia Tech and you're going to the talent on Clemson and walking away with Georgia Tech is a more talented roster than Clemson. I'm not buying that. They're a better coached team than Clemson, no doubt about it. But, I mean, they barely beat Troy in the second game of the year. I mean, they were losing that game for a majority of the game. I mean, this is a team that has multiple first-round draft picks on that defense. And they look pedestrian. They look bad. I mean, when you look at, what Syracuse was able to do, threw for 278 yards, rushed for 155 yards. Man, that is just utterly disappointing. And when you look at Clemson's schedule, let's be honest here. I mean, they play North Carolina. They should win that game. Boston College, they should win that game. I mean, they still have a chance to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They still have a chance to win 6 more games this year. Right? That would bring them to 6 wins. What's that? 7 wins. But there's no way, even if they were to somehow win 7 games this year, would you be looking at them and saying, yeah, they're on the right path? I mean, yeah, you're going to pat your win-loss column with wins against ACC programs because they're ACC programs. So, yeah, like it's time to raise the alarms for Clemson. And I mean, look, they have to have some really tough conversations about Dabo Swinney. And now, like, I don't think Clemson is going to fire Dabo Swinney. I understand what he means to that organization, and I understand why the administration feels attached to Dabo Swinney, because when you have a guy that brought you 2 national championships in the past 10 years, and not only that, got to a national championship, got to multiple national championships as well. I mean, this guy is an extremely successful coach. And I understand why they would ask the question, are we going to find somebody better than Dabo Swinney? Because they probably hold Dabo Swinney in much higher regard than, you and I do, and a lot of the fans out there, and a lot of media members. They probably hold him in higher regard. But I think that is hurting their program, because while last year they took a step in the right direction, they have taken 5 to 6 steps backwards this year. And after this season, where they're not going to make the college football playoffs, they're probably going to at least lose 3 more games. They would have 6 losses on the season. You have all these guys leaving the program. Now, maybe, some guys return because their draft stock got hurt, but would they even return to Clemson, or would they transfer elsewhere? It's the question you have to ask yourself. I just don't believe Dabo Swinney is in the best interest of Clemson right now. And I think they have to make a move there. I want to talk about Oklahoma and the game that they played against Auburn. That was a fantastic game. Oklahoma is one of the national championship contenders. And the reason why I say that is, even though they struggled this game out a little bit against Auburn, what really, to me, solidified themselves as a really, really good team in my eyes is that when they needed to make plays, they made plays, both offensively and defensively. I think their defense is talented. I think their defense is well coached by Brent Venables. Not only that, I think their defense is good enough to hold teams to, 20 points a game. And from there, you have a quarterback that's good enough to make some things happen. Not only do you have a quarterback that's good enough to make some things happen, you got Deion Burks as well. So even though I don't love their offense, I think their offense is good enough where you say, okay, they can do enough with what that defense is giving them that they could win a lot of games here this season. And when you look at the national championship picture, I mean, ask yourself this question: who are the great teams out there? There's not a single great team out there. And I think that when you look at what Oklahoma has and what they can potentially be going forward, yeah, absolutely. This is a team that can make some things happen. Can they win the SEC this year? Can they get to the SEC championship game? I mean, let's look at their schedule here. When you look at their schedule, right now they're 4-0. They have 2 wins against ranked opponents. They have Michigan and they have Auburn. They have Texas on October 11th. They then have South Carolina, who will probably be. Did South Carolina win tonight? I'm sorry about that. No, I don't believe. No, they lost to Missouri, so they're not going to be ranked. You have Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama. I'm sorry. You have at home versus Ole Miss. You have at Tennessee. You have at Alabama. You have versus Missouri. You have versus LSU. I mean, it's tough. It is really tough. I think they're going to beat Texas. There's no doubt in my mind. They're going to beat Texas in the Red River Shootout. They're going to beat South Carolina. They're going to beat Kent State. So I think they're going to win the next 3 games. So right now they're 4-0. That'll get them to 7-0. Leading into Ole Miss, I think they beat Ole Miss. At Tennessee, that's going to be a tough game. I'll give Oklahoma the nod there. When you really start to go through some of these games, like at Alabama, that's going to be a tough game. I'm not out on Alabama. In Tuscaloosa, that's going to be a tough game for them. I think they could beat Missouri, and LSU is going to be tough. So they could lose 3, maybe 4 more games, like at max. I don't think they're going to lose 4 games. I think at worst they're going to lose 3 games. And if you're asking me the 3 games I think they could lose, I think they could lose at Tennessee, at Alabama, and then against LSU. But I also can make the case that they could beat Tennessee, they could beat Alabama, and they could beat LSU. Because I think Ole Miss, they're a better football team than Ole Miss. They're better than Texas. They're better than Missouri. And I think they're better than Tennessee, but them playing at Tennessee really opens things up for me. But when you look, like, if they're able to get through this schedule and they only lose 1 or 2 more games, you have to ask yourself at that point, they only lose 1 or 2 more games with this type of schedule. Yeah, Oklahoma is absolutely a team that you have to look at and say they could really make something happen. And shout out to Brent Venables. Brent Venables, I think, really changed the identity of that football program, right? What was Oklahoma before Brent Venables got there? A team that was as soft as Charmin paper. A team that they would get to the college football playoffs and everybody would know what would happen. You could run through them. You could run at them. You could throw the ball on them. You could put up 70 points. Yeah, they'll put up a bunch of points offensively, but their defense was awful. Now, I wouldn't say it's a complete change because I do think their offense is good enough. I think they have pieces like Centegna and Deion Burks, and John Mater is just such a weapon at quarterback that they'll be able to put up points offensively, at least enough to complement what is one of the best defenses in the country. Like, I just, it's so funny. A lot of people talked about Oklahoma going to the SEC and how they just would not translate to the SEC. They look wrong. Those people look wrong. Oklahoma looks like a team that they fit perfectly in the SEC. And I think you have to give big kudos to their administration, right? Because they had the foresight to say, we're going to the SEC. We need to get a coach that's going to build a team that can properly contend in the SEC. And it took a few years for Brent Venables here. And I believe in Brent Venables. I think he's a really good coach. And I think he's a damn good defensive play caller. We're going to really find out about him this season. And in a make or break season for him, he's making it so far. I mean, look, that Auburn win, I thought it was an impressive win. I really do. I think Auburn has the chance to be a very good football team this year. But, like, to me, you're really going to find out about this team in that, October 25th on, that's when you're going to find out about this team. So very good stuff there from Oklahoma. And I want to finish this by talking about Michigan. As you guys see right here, I am an Ohio State fan. Michigan fans, please don't leave the video. I am an objective Ohio State fan. And I'll say this. Michigan is a team that I look at and they're very interesting for this year. I mean, they beat Nebraska 30-27. If you watch the game, you know the game wasn't really that close. But I will say this. Bryce Underwood, man, he has the potential to be a special talent. And I don't love the fit at Michigan. I don't think that that's a great school for a quarterback to go and develop at. I wish he would have stayed at LSU, not just because I'm an Ohio State fan, but because I think that's where he probably would have gotten the proper development. But when you look at Bryce Underwood, he has the potential to be a generational talent at the quarterback position. That's how special this young man has the potential of being. I'm not saying he's there yet. I'm just saying he has that type of potential. There is a special trait that he has. As an athlete, he's special. But I think that as a passer, even though we haven't seen it so far, I think he has the potential to be a very special passer on top of being an outstanding athlete. And when you pair his ability to be an outstanding passer on top of being the type of athlete he could be, that's where you have legitimate magic with Bryce Underwood. And that's really how I just wanted to end the show. I had to give him a shout out there. But I appreciate you guys for coming out. I will see you guys in the next episode. This was a long one. If you stayed till the end, you're a real one. I appreciate you guys. But until next time, I will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.